Hey, welcome to Learning AI with Sriram. I'm a principal cloud solution architect with Microsoft. Today we are going to talk about Microsoft Azure PromptFlows. Microsoft Azure PromptFlows help you in your journey of OpenAI development that involves a lot of other API calls and quickly converting an application throughout its development lifecycle to a production grade code using this particular tool called prompt. Let's see a typical OpenAI application. You start experimenting with some inputs, putting together an idea of generating an output to the user or an application by doing processing, intelligent processing, I should say, that converts users' input into a meaningful output. This is no different to any other application you would be creating and where you would be writing the business logic. However, in this special OpenAI application, you will be using OpenAI APIs. And also, you will be using databases such as vector databases. And you have to do some special processing and special steps when interfacing with such tools. As an example, if you want to interface with a large language model, you need to actually interface it with something called a prompt. And during the process, your prompt serves as a very meaningful component, just like how a code is to the application. So, Microsoft created this tool called Microsoft Azure Prompt Flows, where you could make this prompt a centralized star and learn, experiment, and zero down on implementing appropriate prompt that gives a meaningful output to your users. This is a three-part series. So let's go through part by part as separate videos, which I will be posting. Like always, any code that is used as part of this and any links that makes you productive will be shared underneath each of these videos. So this video is split into three parts. In part 1, we will see the basics of how we actually build the flow, how we actually run the whole entire process end to end and check the output with just one record. In part 2, we'll be seeing an end to end example with best practices implemented, such as building your own logic, evaluating the effectiveness of your prompts, etc. And in the third part, we conclude by building and deploying the application as a Docker container, which also means you can actually put the application into production anywhere that Kubernetes run. With that said, let's start with a basic flow and we do it from the scratch. In the basic flow, we will read an input, we will perform something called an embedding. We search the embedding in a backend vector database. In our case, it's Microsoft Cognitive Search Vector Database. We process the raw data that is sent by vector database into meaningful prompts. We build prompt with a prompt template. We actually send the prompt as an input to a large language model and we will see the output generated by this application. I know there are a lot of components and you might be feeling that it is a lot of code, but it is not. That's the whole point of this video. So let's go through the code. Like I promised, it's VS Code. Everything is in VS Code. I always use VS Code. So I have created a folder called PromptFlow with a vector database, and that folder has bunch of artifacts. Again, no need to overwhelm. It is as simple as you just open you just open a new folder, let's say, and let's call the new folder demo. Actually, I want to move this folder outside. Okay. So now in the demo folder, create a new flow in this directory. There are three kinds of flows: a standard flow, a chat flow, and an evaluation flow. We'll go through all of these three things, but chat flow is the most important of all. And let's say chart flow template, and it generates some YAML code for you. Again, nothing to worry about. We can visualize this code in a visual editor. And the visual editor contains two panes, a left pane and a right pane. The left pane contains the information about each of the module you see on the right pane. And you provide inputs to each of these. You provide the inputs to this module and you use the output of any module as an input to the next module. In this case, we used three modules: an input module, an output module, and something called a chat module. This module is called a tool. If you go to PromptFlow, there are a bunch of tools you can use. And one of the tool is an large language model tool. There are other tools which we'll be seeing throughout this journey. So the tool, if you see the configuration, is nothing but it is a visual configuration of this particular piece. In my case, I have created a connection called Azure OpenAI connection. And within my Azure OpenAI, I have a deployment called GPT-4. And every chat comes with a Jinja template, which we will see in a second of what that is. And then it takes inputs, of course, the chat history and the question. And then this generates an output which would be used in the final module. Now, let's compile this piece of code. So, if you say run it in standard mode, it does demand you the input. So, let's say, what is next best innovation? Okay. So, now let's run this. Okay, it is now executing. You got the answer. You can run this in the interactive mode, wherein you can converse this You can converse with this as if you will be conversing with a chatbot. What is the next best innovation? And it will respond to you back. And you can continue chatting with that, and automatically the chat history will be populated. As it is processing this, okay, sure enough, you got the result, and then it is prompting for next thing. So based on LLMs, what other things you could do in the medical field? So by before let it answer, um, I'm going to show you something called the Jinja template that I told I will show it to you. So that this is a templatized language. So why do we use this language? We use this language um, to dynamically substitute inputs versus hard coding. For example, we don't know upfront what will be coming through the input, or other words, what question will be coming from the input. We don't know um, what will be populated in the chat history upfront. So we need to iterate through the chat history and continuously append the context so that the final output will be meaningful. Or other words, when you are talking about a specific thing, uh, the conversation assistant need to keep that in the context so that it don't answer you in a very weird way, and therefore the chat history will be used. And also we don't know upfront what the question is until the user asks the question. So therefore it is the template language. So a real quick crash course that you really need to learn. You just learn the double braces, right? So um, which is nothing but substitute dynamically, and probably will loop something like this, and that's about it, right? So just a simple thing. I'll point you to the documentation later. So that's it. That's about it. That's how you need to do it. And this is the hello world of prompt flows. So with that, we will do a real application.